What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a pre-release guide for Mydei, our brand new imaginary destruction character that deals a bunch of damage. I'm going to be covering how to build Mydei so he hits like a truck, which Relic and Planer sets to use, his best light cones, and his teammates, and also some of his playstyles. So if you enjoy this type of content, let me know by liking the video, leaving the comment section below, and consider subscribing to the channel. Also, follow me on Twitch. We're doing account reviews on a daily basis over at my Twitch TV/iSUMMON YT. So check that out if you're interested. Without further ado, let's get right into the guide. To start, Mydei is an HP scaling character that deals a ton of damage. He's very similar to Blade in how he sacrifices his own HP to increase his damage. He also has a special form called Vendetta, and in order for Mydei to get this form, he needs to acquire charge by losing his HP. Now, this charge can be gained by either taking damage from enemies or by consuming his own HP, kind of like how Blade does it. For every 1% of Mydei's HP lost, he will gain 1 charge, and whenever he reaches 100%, he will enter the Vendetta state. Now, a few things are going to happen whenever he enters the Vendetta state. Mydei is going to increase his max HP by 50%. So let's say you are 8k HP in your build. This means that his new max HP will be around 12,000. Mydei will also heal 25% of his new max HP. So in the previous example, he will heal about 4k HP. Next, his defense will be set to 0, and this allows him to take more damage from enemies, getting more charge quicker. And then finally, Mydei will also advance his action by 100%. Now, while he's in the Vendetta state, Mydei only has access to his enhanced skill, and for this we're going to call it Kingslayer, and he just launches it automatically. You can't target it manually. This skill consumes 35% of Mydei's max HP and hit the main target and adjacent enemies as well. Now, if Mydei gets hit and dies while in the Vendetta state, he will in fact not die, and then he will restore his HP by 50%, and this can happen up to 3 times. So technically, Mydei has 4 lives. If your Mydei dies more than 4 times, then you're probably not ready for whatever you're doing. You got to go back to those caverns and grind some relics. Now, going back to Vendetta state, while he's in this form, he will still keep the charge mechanic, but this time when he reaches 150 charge, he will gain an extra turn and launch an even bigger enhanced skill, which we're going to call Godslayer. This version of the skill does not consume HP and instead will consume the 150 charge. This will also deal an insane amount of imaginary damage to a single target enemy and to adjacent enemies as well. Again, this skill cannot be manually targeted, but there is a way to kind of target this skill via his ultimate. Like I just mentioned, his ultimate is his main way of targeting his Godslayer skill, and is also another way for him to regain some HP, as it restores 20% of his max HP and adds an extra 20 charge. The ultimate will deal imaginary damage to the targeted enemy and to the adjacent targets, and also the targeted enemy will also be the target of the next Godslayer enhanced skill. So this is primarily his only way of actually targeting the Godslayer skill. His technique allows him to taunt all enemies when he starts the battle and gives him 50 charge right at the beginning of the fight, making it way easier to enter Vendetta state as quick as possible. Now, Mydei has one of the most insane traces I have ever seen, as it helps him be built easier and also play a lot better. This trait makes you focus on HP, and once Mydei has at least 8,000 HP, he will gain up to 48% crit rate, up to 30% incoming healing, and makes Mydei gain up to double the amount of charge from enemy hits. This trace alone may circumvent your terrible relic luck and open up a great build regardless of your relic quality. His second trace is nothing to write home about, but is actually very good as well. It makes him immune to CC, which is anything that would disallow Mydei from taking actions such as sleep, stuns, or even imprisonment. And then his third and final trace is what keeps him from exiting the Vendetta state whenever he takes fatal damage. As far as trace priority, I would level up his skill first, then his ultimate, followed by his talent, and I would not waste a single material on his basic attack, as once you're in the Vendetta state, you literally cannot use your basic attack, so don't waste a single material or credit on leveling up your basic attack. It's a waste. Now, moving on to Mydei playstyles and builds, he essentially has 2 builds, one being fast Mydei, which runs speed boots with at least 135 speed, and the second is slow Mydei, which is with HP boots. I'll explain both later, and I will go over in the video which one will be better for you depending on what supports you have in your account. Starting off with fast Mydei, the relics for this build are either going to be the Scholar set or the Longevous Disciple set. Both sets are very good, but the Scholar set ends up being his best in slot. coupled with either the Riddlin Arena or the Bone Collector set. Both of these are actually very strong, so go with whichever one you had the better luck and you had the best substats with. As far as main stats here, we have the chest. You can run crit damage or crit rate or HP. It depends on your rolls, frankly, but for most people it's going to depend whether if you have Sunday or not. If you have Sunday, then you can more comfortably run the crit damage chest, and if you don't have Sunday, then running the crit rate chest will be better because you want to be at as close to 100% crit rate as you possibly can. And given that he already gives himself 48% crit rate, you're going to have 8 from the Scholar or 8 from the Planar set, and also you add the 32% from the chest. You're going to be really close to getting to that 100% depending on your subset rolls. You're not going to need that many rolls to get to a good crit rate. Now, you could technically run HP chests as well, but you're going to need cracked out crit damage rolls for this, and also good crit rate rolls for this as well. Maybe also even have Sunday for you to be able to run a good HP chest set on your Mydei, but it's definitely possible. For this particular build, the boots are going to be speed 99.9% of the time, because the goal is to get 135 speed and up, because you want your Mydei to be 1 speed faster than whatever your action advance is, which in this case, let's go ahead and say it's Sunday, right? So your goal is to get 135 and above speed, and then have your Sunday really close behind that, either 1 speed or 2 speed behind your Mydei. The orb is going to be HP because we are running speed boots and we need the extra HP to get to our HP threshold. So running imaginary orb is going to be a lot worse if you cannot get to the HP threshold that we're looking for. And then finally, rope is going to be HP 100% of the time. There's no real reason for you to run an ER rope. You lose a lot of damage by running ER rope instead of the HP, so just run HP rope. The concept of this build is to essentially double or even triple Mydei's turns via action advances from characters like Sunday, from Bronya, or even Sparkle. Like I said before, you will run a Mydei at 135 speed and a Sunday 1 speed less than that. So Sunday can go ahead and action advance Mydei after Mydei takes his turn by himself. Aside from that, if you are going to be running this setup with Sunday, you could also run Tribi, you can also run RMC as well as your second Harmony character, and then also a Sustain as your last and final slot. Don't worry, I will go over more in depth in the team discussion in the calculation portion of the video. Going over slow Mydei, the Relic and Planar sets are pretty much the exact same thing. The only thing that changes is going to be the boots and the orb, depending on what you have. So for this one, you're going to be running HP boots instead of speed, and this opens up the orb to be imaginary because we make up for it by running the HP boots. In my opinion, HP orb is better, but you can also run imaginary orb if that's what you have. This playstyle calls for Mydei to have HP boots, maximizing his own damage, and then leaving all the speed to the action advancers in Sunday and or Sparkle. For this, you're going to want to run a really fast Sparkle as close to 161 speed as possible, and then run the Sunday pretty much 1 speed less than that. And this will allow you to undercut Sunday with the Sparkle action advance, and then once Mydei takes that turn, action advance him one more time with the Sunday. So essentially you get the benefits of having 161 speed twice while also running HP boots on your Mydei. Now, this is not the only way to run this build, as you can also run Sparkle Tribi or RMC, or Sunday Tribi or RMC. The goal here is to have 1 or 2 action advances to get more Mydei actions in succession. Speaking of teams, here we have a breakdown of all the teams that we tested and the calculations for those particular runs. Now, I'm not going to go into complete detail on each and every one of these teams. A good thing to take away from this is that it didn't matter which support we use, and for context, we use Tribi, we use Sunday, we use RMC, we also use Sparkle. The reason Ruan Mei is not in here is because Ruan Mei actually has a little bit of anti-synergy with Mydei, because she actually delays enemies and makes it faster for them to be broken, which makes them take less turns, which makes them hit Mydei a lot less, and makes charging Mydei a lot more tedious. So we didn't really throw in Ruan Mei in here. However, we have Tribi, we have Sparkle, we have Sunday, and we have RMC as well. And just for a little bit of a rundown, RMC performed really well. Actually has the highest overall damage for Mydei aside from no sustain teams. Sparkle was one of the best performers here, as we use her as for our benchmark. So if you are a Sparkle haver, you're in good luck. She is insanely strong with Mydei. But the main thing to take away here is that it didn't matter what team we used, we still were able to clear in about 2 cycles at the very worst. Obviously, the no sustain teams performed really well, 0 cycle and no sustain teams, and the 1 cycle team, it was the Sparkle Sunday with 161 Sparkle, 160 Sunday, with HP boots on the Mydei. So the good thing is that Mydei has a bunch of different team options that he can run, so you're not shackled to just running Sunday. For sustains, you can run whichever one actually heals, you know, like as long as it's not a shielding sustain, you can run it. So Gallagher is a very good one, Hua was a very good one as well. You have Ling Sha, which is incredible, and Lynx actually has a lot of good synergy with Mydei because she actually gives you an HP increase and taunts. So Lynx is actually a very, very good damage buffer actually for Mydei. So if you have a Lynx built, or if you don't have any of the other big sustainers built, building Lynx for your Mydei might actually be a good idea. Moving on to the Lycone discussion, Mydei actually has a bunch of different options here. The first one we're going to talk about is the benchmark, which is the Ninja Record Sound Haunted S5, which is a free-to-play Lycone that you can get from the shop. Also, Flames of Far is another free Lycone that you can get, and they perform very, very similarly. It's actually very little the difference it is. So either of those two will be fairly good to use. However, there is a Lycone that is pretty much a day one Lycone, and a lot of you may already have a copy of, and that is going to be a Secret Vow at S1. Is actually better than Clara's Lycone. So we have Secret Vow at S1, works tremendously well with Mydei. It performs pretty much equally as good as Jingliu's Lycone. So if you have Jingliu's Lycone, also works pretty well. Now, if you have Clara's Lycone at S5, then obviously it's going to be a little better. But then S5 Secret Vow actually is insanely good. It's very comparable to Blade's Lycone at S1. So if you have Secret Vow at S5, you're in luck. You can use that Lycone. It's actually very strong. Gives you a lot of damage bonuses for Mydei. Obviously, Blade's Lycone works with Mydei. They pretty much do the exact same thing. So naturally, Blade's Lycone gives you a little bit of crit rate and damage bonus when you consume your own HP. And unsurprisingly, his own Lycone, Flame Blood of Blaze My Path at S1 is an insane amount of damage increase compared to the two free-to-play options here, which is the Ninja Record and Flames of Far. Now, guys, I'm going to leave this spreadsheet in the comment section below, so if you want to reference it, you can just click the link in the description and it'll take you through the spreadsheet. Shout out to LP for making it, and then you can pretty much assess here what you need and what Lycone you can run for yourself. Now, finally, we have the Eidolons. The E1 damage calculator here was for single target damage, so for only single target damage, the increase is about 5%, but since this Eidolon essentially makes Godslayer AoE, in an AoE scenario, the more enemies there are in the field, the more value the E1 is going to get. And let me tell you, when there is more than 3 enemies, or at least 3 enemies, it's more than doubling your damage. So E1 pretty much doubles your damage when there is more than 1 enemy, and then with only 1 enemy, you only get about 5% increase. But regardless, we are getting a lot of bosses that have a bunch of enemies, so the E1 is going to have a lot of value. The E2 is insane. He ignores 50% of enemies' defense and converts a portion of healing into charge, pretty much accelerating the rate in which you fire off your Godslayer, which is your bread and butter like DPS move. The E4 increases his own crit damage, and he actually heals himself when hit by enemies, which results in extra charge per enemy hit, which is what this note is about here, and it increases your overall performance by about 9% from the, or actually 20% from the E2, which is pretty insane. And the E6 allows you to enter the fight in Vendetta state and reduces the Godslayer charge from 150 to 100, which is insane. It allows you to pretty much fire off the Godslayer Be God a lot of the time. Now, needless to say, Mydei is looking to be one of the top tier DPSs in the game. As usual with these releases, he is looking to be an absolute destroyer, an absolute monster, and I'm very excited to pull for him in just about a week, because he comes out in, I think, about a week. So let me know what you guys think in the description below. Are you going to pull for Mydei? What are your thoughts on this character? Put it in the comments, and until next time, guys, see ya.